All right, let's get everything all set up and we will start very soon. Just gonna get my iPad situated. All right. If you are stopping by, drop a quick comment to say hello so I know you're here. And we will get started with our very first Facebook Live very, very soon. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Saturday. We'll do introductions and a little bit of information in a minute or so. Hello, Cassie. Thanks for stopping by and being here. You know I appreciate that. I am just so excited for today's live and for a chance to just do this for the first time with y'all. I think this is going to be a really fun experience, and I hope you learn something new. And I'm really excited to announce our June challenge theme as well. So that will be announced very shortly because the project I'm making today will feature that theme. So I think that's really exciting. So, oh, no problem for being tech savvy. So, why don't we start with some introductions just as we have some people trickling in. So my name is Justin Adkins. I am one of the 3 group administrators for the Distressing Techniques group. Me, Cassie, and Bernadette took over the leadership of the group last year, and we wanted to do something special for y'all. So we decided to do a Facebook Live. I have experience in the past with doing Facebook Lives, and when I say in the past, I still do them currently. Back when the pandemic started, back in early mid 2020, I started doing Facebook Lives, and I really haven't stopped since then. I'm usually doing anywhere from 2 to 4 a month, depending on what and where. I do a lot of distress product usage. I have the full line of Oxide inks. I have all of the minis of the regular distress. I don't have them all in the full size pad, but that's because I use the Oxides more. I've got a slew of the distress spray stains, Oxide sprays, mica stains. I've got some of the embossing glazes. I've got just a handful of stuff, and I love the distress products. I have been ink blending since the very start of my crafting experience, and I've just picked up more techniques with using the Oxides ever since. I'm pretty certain one of the first colors that I purchased was fossilized amber, and that was because it was available at a local store near me, and I was able to grab it with like a half price, 50% off coupon. So, with that being said, I'm really excited to announce our challenge theme for June. This is going to be our first challenge. We're excited to see what you all are able to enter with it. And we came up with the theme of, drumroll please, just kind of tapping my fingers on the table, on the boardwalk. I thought that I would say that boardwalks and on the boardwalk, that sort of a theme is a great segue into summer, which is right around the corner, depending on what corner of the earth that you're living on right now. Right here, I live near the Chicago area in Illinois in the United States, and we've not really been having a lot of summery weather. It's technically still spring, but we've been dealing with a lot of mild temperatures, a chunk of rain, so I'm looking forward to jump starting into some fun summer activity. So we're going to do some boardwalk crafting. Let me see, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments. All right, so I think that this is going to be a great theme for the summer. So before we get into crafting, I want to go a little bit over how my Facebook Lives generally work. I have my iPad up in front of me, which I use to my best ability that I can to monitor comments as they are coming in. Now, being transparent, Facebook does often change the way that their system shows comments on Facebook Live. But like, for example, right now I can respond to Holly and say, hello, thank you so much for joining in from across the pond. I appreciate you stopping by, Holly. But I try my best to respond to comments when I can. But there are going to be periods during my live where my face isn't up looking at a screen. And I may just keep crafting. And then what I like to do is stop at a certain point, check comments, respond to any questions regarding anything I may have done up until this point, and then move on to the next step. So don't be afraid if I miss your comment or think that I'm ignoring you. Absolutely not. I just can't always respond and work at the same time. And then I did also say in the post that I did yesterday that this is just more of a demonstration. This is more of some techniques for y'all to learn about how to use different oxide and distress products. I don't expect you to craft along with me. That's why I don't post a supply list. If you are working on some crafting projects right now and you want to use what I'm doing for inspiration, absolutely go for it. If you want to replicate my card and enter it in our June challenge and just say you were inspired by this Facebook Live to enter, absolutely go for it. But you do not, this is not structured in a way as a class where it's like a step-by-step process for how you to make a card from start to finish. But it is a great opportunity just to have an informal chit chat, have some crafty fun, and you know what? I think it's time to about to get into it. So what I would like to do is I have a couple dies that they're not Tim Holtz products. I had some dies in my set that I thought would work really well. So I have this film strip die. This is actually a slimline die and a carnival scene die. These are by Kindred Stamps. And I'm going to use these to create sort of like a silhouette scene of sorts with a boardwalk theme. I have kind of a non-traditional use for how we're going to go ahead and use this, and that is we're going to use it as the stands of the boardwalk. You know how boardwalks are typically like on, I want to say stilts, but I'm sure that's not the right word, but there's supports that go into the ocean or into the water to hold them above ground. And I thought that this film strip die would do that really nicely for us. So what I'm going to do next is let's work on the different elements of our card. I want to start with some, I want to start by actually showing you the 6-color palette that I'm choosing to work with today's project. And I think this is a really good summer theme. This was actually, I have one color in this group that is very appropriate for a boardwalk theme. Let's see if you guys can pick it out. So my 6-color palette of oxides, we're going to use dried marigold, saltwater taffy, worn lipstick, seedless preserves, uncharted mariner, and broken china. And if you're thinking for a second about which comment or which color is perfect for boardwalk, I definitely think saltwater taffy is probably the most appropriate oxide color to use for a boardwalk sort of theme. The only thing that I feel like could be better if there was like a corn dog brown, or you know what, mustard seed. Mustard seed would actually be another really good choice for that as well. Or if we had like a pink or a light blue that was a cotton candy themed. But saltwater taffy is going to be the perfect color. And this is the 6-color blend that we're going to be using for our project. And you're going to see how all of this comes together very shortly. So what I want to work on first is let's work on some blues. And I want to get an inking pad out. This is a paper inking palette. Also, too, with these lives, I'm going to be transparent and say I will be using products that are not just Tim Holtz and Ranger products. I'm pulling from my own stash for products that work well with me. So if I'm using a product that's not distress related, I understand our group is about all distress inks, and that's what this live is about too. I'm just going to quickly mention products that I'm using outside of it, just in case you're curious for your own sake. So I am using a paper inking palette. These are by Picket Fence Studio. This size is, it's a 5x6. So we're going to go ahead, pull this out. Exactly, Cassie. Use what you got. And with this challenge, we are not expecting people to be using only solely Tim Holtz and Ranger products or all distress products, because there's not you want to pull in from what you have. We're just asking that you have at least one element of your project that uses a distressed product. And we ask that you list it out in the comments just so we know what it is and what you're using. And that way it fits the challenge theme. So what I also have is I have some wave dies that I went ahead and die cut. These were also by Kindred Stamps. And I'm going to go ahead and place them down like this on my paper inking palette. Now, the reason that I'm using my paper inking palette is because it's going to very nicely hold my paper in place while I'm inking. And now I want to talk into how I like to ink blend, and that is with using predominantly just regular foam blending tools. These are the distress blending tools. I've gone back and forth before. And I found that I really like these tools, particularly more than blending brushes with oxides. I like using brushes when it comes to the regular distressings. I don't typically reach for brushes with oxides because I feel like they're difficult to clean. They work like a dream in the very beginning. Like, I don't think I've ever worked with a medium of blending with an oxide and a brand new blending brush that's so smooth and gets you such perfect coloration. But I've found for me that sometimes after a while, those brushes get a little on the stiffer side, and I just don't have those issues with these foam discs. And if these foam discs break or whatever, it's really cheap and manageable to go ahead and put a new one on. So we've got, that was Broken China. Now I'm gonna go in with some Uncharted Mariner and just kind of do this along the bottom and blending them into each other. And I think that this is kind of a, when I say grungy, this may not be your type of grungy, but for me, this is kind of a darker way for me to do water. I am much more of a vibrant color crafter. I don't use a bunch of muted tones from that's typically not my preference. And I know with distressed products and with what Tim's style is, a lot of it does lend itself into some of those more muted, earthier, grungier, distressed tones. I mean, this is a distressed group. When you think of something being distressed, you don't think of a bright rainbow of sorts. But I'm going to blend this into each other, and this is going to be for our water. Just kind of get a nice smooth blend. All right, I'm just kind of blend them into each other nicely. And what I'm going to do next is take advantage of one of my favorite features of distress products, and that's that they're water reactive. So I'm going to take the nozzle of my distress sprayer out, and I'm just going to go ahead and splatter some water onto our ink blended waves. And I'm going to grab a towel so I can pull up the color in a second. And the longer you let the water sit on your ink and react, the more white of what I call them as bleach spots you're going to get. So I'm just going to go ahead. See, and now we've just got some nice speckles going on from that watermark. We're going to go ahead and put these off to the side. Perfect. I am going to clean off my palette, and then I am going to go ahead and reorient it. I probably should have done it more of a portrait style. I do apologize. I know that squeaking noise is not a lovely thing to hear. So I'm trying to be very careful, very gentle. I will also check comments in a second. All right, let's see. We'll pull this up, and then let's put this right back down. And this mat, it's essentially just like a 5x6 photopolymer stamp. That's the best way that I can describe it, because it's got that initial stickiness, and that's what really holds your paper nicely into place. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna grab a second panel, and let's talk about the paper that I'm using. So when I use Distress Oxide inks, I like to use Strathmore Bristol Smooth Series 300 paper because I have found that for myself, I get a beautiful blend with it. This paper is extremely non-porous, very, very smooth, and it's just the perfect sort of medium for oxides to sit on top of and blend into each other nicely. So I use this paper almost exclusively. Sometimes it changes depending on what I'm working on, but this is usually what I'm reaching for. So I wanted to blend up a nice sort of sky color that was, I guess we're going to go more of like a sunset sort of color scheme. So we're going to go in with that dried marigold, and I'm going to be very generous with this color because a lot of it's going to actually get covered up. And I want to make sure that we can still see some of the dried marigold in our project. And I'm not going all the way to the bottom because my ocean waves will cover a chunk of that up, because I don't need to waste the ink to do that. Let's go in next with some saltwater taffy, keeping my one blending tool out for my dried marigold. So we're gonna go in with the saltwater taffy oxide, and I'm gonna blend that right next to it. Just kind of go in like this. Blend it into the dried marigold. However, it's not going to blend right away. By you pushing one color into the other just one time, you're going to get a line where the two colors meet. You're not going to get a nice gradation of those two colors. So that's why I keep the dried marigold out for the ink blender. I'm just going to go back and blend it. Kind of blend it into each other like that. Perfect. And when I say perfect, I don't literally mean perfect. I just mean it's the way that I like it. All right, next let's pull in some worn lipstick. And this is a darker pink, a darker, earthier pink. And this is like the darker, this is, if you're looking at the Distress color family, if you want to go a shade darker than Saltwater Taffy, I do believe worn lipstick is probably going to be your best bet. And I feel like Saltwater Taffy is a nice bridge of sorts between Tattered Rose and worn lipstick. All right, so we've got worn lipstick down. Worn lipstick is another one of my first colors that I got of Oxide inks. So go back in with that Saltwater Taffy blender. Just kind of blend it into each other. Just like that. Getting a nice gradation. All right, then the last thing that I want to do is I'm going to use Seedless Preserves as the top of this sky. And we're just going to go in, add it on top. There you can really see that line. Now I'm going to go in with my worn lipstick and blend it out and just work on getting these two colors sort of combined into one another. And then I am going to go back in with my Saltwater Taffy, just kind of blend that. Make sure my lines are nice and smooth. And then take my dried marigold and blend that as well. But we're not done there. We are going to also distress this sky as well. So I'm going to take my nozzle and just kind of splatter onto our background like that. Let it wait a few seconds. While it's waiting, let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh, thank you so much, Cassie. All right, I'm going to put my blending tools away while that water is setting. Perfect. Go ahead, press this down, pick it up. If you don't think you got it all, carefully put it down again. You can use a paper towel for this. A clean paper towel is probably going to be your safest way to do this, because if you have ink already on a craft towel that you're using in your space, if it's dirty, I can't promise that it won't transfer that ink back onto the paper in places you don't want it. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to remove this very carefully. All right, and then we're going to clean it up. Just like that. trying to be mindful of that squeaky noise. And then I'm going to put this away because we're actually done with our ink blending for now. Actually, we're done with our ink blending, I think, entirely. So let me go ahead and get my little acetate sheets out. We'll put this away. This palette gets a lot of use, especially during Facebook Lives and videos. All right, so just like that. Put this away in my pocket. All right. Been spending my whole morning today getting crafting stuff done, and whew, I've got lots of card pictures to take. It's also a little rainy out, which is weather I kind of like for crafting because it's like good cozy weather. All right, so now let's start putting our card together. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put the wave down first. And a little thing, so I like to talk about tips and tricks during my card making process because I think it's helpful when people share them because it might be something you hadn't thought of yet. So my panels, these are not A2 size. They're actually about 1/8 of an inch smaller on each side. So we are looking at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I got that by using a die from my stash to cut out the shape. What I also did though, however, is I trimmed these down so that the width of my ocean waves are the same as my panel. So that way it is already fit perfectly to my project. So I'm not gonna have to trim that off. What I didn't do though was trim down the carnival scene in my film strip die. I was trying to come up with a good project to do with y'all today. And I love this carnival die. I think it works perfectly. I remember, gosh, probably 4 years ago or so at this point, I've actually made a card kind of similar to this one, but not as detailed. And I'm just realizing there was actually something that I wanted to do that I'm talking too much that I forgot about. So let's go ahead and do that. I wanted to splatter a little bit onto the sky just to give it a little bit of a sparkle. So I'm going to grab some Distress Mica Stain. This is Flickering Candle, and I'm going to shake it up. Oh my goodness, I got ahead of myself, you know? All right, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of spread it out like that. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of water to it. And then I'm gonna grab a watercolor brush to pick it up. And just sort of splatter it onto our project. Add a little bit of glitteriness, a little bit of metallicness, make it look like stars. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and dry it too. Ooh. That's one thing I've noticed, that whenever you're using any sort of the sprays in your craft stash or anything that's got like a watercolor or metallicness to it, it doesn't clean super easily. It does clean. It's not like it's a problem, but it's not just a quick wipe. You've kind of got to put some elbow grease into it to make sure it gets entirely removed. So, all right, let's go ahead. Let's take our Heat It tool. Make sure I'm not missing any comments. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Holly and Cassie. You guys are so sweet. I appreciate it. So I'm just going to go in, use my Heat It tool to set all of these mica splatters. And you're going to get some nice gold stars from it. Now see, I was originally going to use a non-distress product to do my splatters, and then I remembered I had all these beautiful mica sprays, and I'm like, you know what? This works. Let's just do this too. Right. Perfect. Okay, we're not done yet though, because I wanted to splatter a little bit more. So let's wipe this up for now. All right, so now what I want to do is cover the top portion, and then I've got some Snow Flurries mica stain. It's so funny because I'm pulling in the seasonal mica sprays, and I just used a Halloween one for the stars. Now we're going to use a winter holiday one for the water, but that's okay. Use what you got, like Cassie said. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got it all shaken up. I'm going to just kind of guide it. There we go. And then we'll water it down just slightly. The reason I like to water it down is because that makes it easier to splatter, in my own opinion. So we're going to go ahead, make sure that this brush is clean. I don't want to turn my splatters green by mixing the flickering candle and the Snow Flurries together. All right, so let's pick that up. Kind of splatter that. Don't have to go excessively with the splatters. You kind of just want to keep it nice and easy, just to add a little bit of detail. All right. Let's go ahead, we'll remove my block. Now, ideally, I was wanting to do that before I started adhering things together, but in a pinch, you can just sort of mask off your card and do it if you forgot. So use my heated tool, set this all into place. This card is coming together nice and quick. When I've done Facebook Lives in the past, just talking about myself for a second, things outside of this group, I'm on a couple design teams, and most of the design teams that I work with or have in the past, I work with stamped out images that you have to color up, or I choose to color up rather. So I usually, when I do a Facebook Live, spend a good chunk of the time coloring an item up with Copic markers. So by me not having to do that today, it's really cutting down on time. And I love projects like that where you can just have some elements ready to go and pull together a card nice and quickly, which is what I feel like we're doing today. So, all right, next I'm going to take my film strip die. I want to kind of map this out where I want it to go. I still want to see that water. So I think we're going to do it like this. Okay, but I want everything to be nice and even. And I know this is going to work the way that I want it to. It's just the means of getting there. But I think it's going to look really cute. At least I hope so. All right, but I don't need to glue a bunch down. So we're just going to kind of go in. We're going to do, well, you know what? I don't even need glue down there. Using my Misty Precision Glue Press. All right. Let's see. I'm going to try to line this up. And sometimes I get quiet when I'm trying to figure out where I want everything to go. Make sure this is nice and even before all my glue sets, and then I'm SOL. Sorry. If we consider that poor language, that's my mistake. All right. Let's see. All right, I think that's pretty good. All right, so now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take our scene, our little carnival scene, and adhere that on top. And I think I want to have it like that. Yes. Okay. Let's go ahead and use that same Misty Precision Glue Press. Put this off to the side. All right. Let's see. Now, I did leave these longer than the card, and that's because I like to trim off the excess rather than try to cut it to size sometimes, and that allows me to get a more snug, accurate fit. Perfect. Ooh. So let's go ahead and get this into place. You know what? I forgot about that. It's going to be over here. Ah, no. We don't want that glue down there. Figure out a way to cover that up. Let it dry first. All right, so let's use an acrylic block, press this into place. I do want that to dry up too, so I don't have a smudge in the middle of my project. Let's see, using one of my adhesive erasers, but I could go in later and add an embellishment or something. Okay, so now let's go in and trim this up. Just using scissors. Just like that. I wanted to use, well, what do I want to do? I'm trying to think of how I could cover that little blemish up. If this doesn't work. Okay. I think we're getting somewhere. I do recommend having some form of an adhesive eraser at your craft space because it helps in situations like this where you get adhesive somewhere that you don't want it to go. Actually, that's pretty perfect. All right. Trying to be very careful. I think that's about as good as it's gonna get. But now we got a little bit down there too. So just kind of clean it up. That one came off nice and easy. Okay, but what I also wanted to do is I kind of wanted to close up this seam right here of where both of the dies meet. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna very carefully just do a little line of adhesive just along this line right here. Perfect. And I just have a strip of the same black paper that I wanted to just, I'll do it on that side, just adhere over it. And I thought that it would just kind of close that seam nicely, add a little bit of texture, kind of do two things at once. Kind of like in a little detail that if you don't know it's there, I don't know if people will pay attention to why it's there, but that's okay. Trim this off. Trim that off. Thank you so much, Cassie. We're not done yet. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to also use the second wave piece, and that way it kind of looks like that support are set nicely into the water. So we're going to do some liquid adhesive on the waves. Da, 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 da. Put that nicely into place. There. Awesome. Awesome sauce. All right, let's grab a card base before we start working on our sentiment. And I just want to put this on a white card base, and it's going to have a nice little white frame. which is something that I like with my projects is when I'm creating them, is to use the white of the card base to try to frame off my project. I think, are we good? I think we're good. All right. Just gonna glue it. Perfect, perfect. All right, let me kind of snugly move it into place. Now you could do some really fun stenciling in this sky. I have a sunburst stencil sitting off to the side that I'm like, ooh, that would have been pretty to make it look like a sunset, but this works. Without a stencil, I still absolutely love it. Now for my sentiment, I think that might actually be the way I go about covering this up, is I might have a sentiment right here that just says, yay, best day ever. So I'm thinking that might be how I get this situated. Just want to make sure I do it the way that makes the most sense. Let's see, how are we going to do it? I like that. I know it kind of goes into the carnival a little bit, but I like that. Okay, let's go ahead, and that's going to cover up that blemish really nicely for me. I was going to use foam tape, but we're just going to glue it directly on top of our project. And I'll talk for a second. So I'll show you guys the stamp set where the sentiment comes from. This is from the Happy Birthday stamp set from scrapbook.com. It also has a coordinating die set. And one of my new favorite things when it comes to crafting is stamp sentiment sets that come with coordinating dies, because it trims them perfectly and it makes them so nice and clean for your projects. And it makes I feel like when you have your sentiments die cut, they really pop. So I'll show you guys the stamp set as soon as it's done. We're not fully done with the card yet, but I did have this heat embossed in advance, just to try and cut down some time. All right, the stamp set is just, it says happy birthday. I know I said I'll quickly do it because I know I'm not using all distressed products, but it just has a bunch of different ways to say happy birthday, and it has the coordinating dies to cut them out. So it's just a great set to have when you're looking for birthday sentiments. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead. We've got, is this all adhered? I think it's all adhered. Let's just add a couple embellishments. So what do I got? I kind of want to keep my embellishments nice and simple. So let's see what I have. Those are white. I don't want white. I'm reaching for some enamel dots. I'm a big fan of enamel dots because I feel like enamel dots just make a lot of sense for crafting as they already have the adhesive on them. So I'm trying to see what enamel dots I can pull from for this card. Is that clear? Yeah, we're going to do those. Got some Pink and Main glitter enamel dots. They're just clear with glitter. We're just going to add a couple. I'm going to do like a couple little clusters. Do one down here. Let's see. Let's do like one on this house right here. A little one right there. And then I'd like to do like one more. Let me see where to put this. Like right there. Nah, actually work. Oh, no, it went underneath my little ledge. Oh, phooey. Where's my craft tool so I can get this out? There we go. Just like right like there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more. Keep it in rules of 3. Like that. Awesome. Guys, this is it. This is my own take on what to create for our new June monthly challenge. So let's just talk a little bit about the different distressed products that we made or used to make this card all come together. So this live was mostly about ink blending. So we went ahead and we used 6 different oxide inks. We used seedless preserves, worn lipstick, saltwater taffy, dried marigold, uncharted mariner, and broken china. These were the 6 colors that we used as our palette, along with, of course, a lot of black cardstock. We also went ahead and I pulled in 2 Distress mica sprays, and that's the Snow Flurries and the Flickering Candle. So I pulled those in, used those for some flicks for a little bit of shimmer, and yeah, everything came together just really nicely. So thank you all so much for stopping by today's live. I hope this provided you with some inspiration for what you could put into the June challenge album. The possibilities are endless though, really, when it comes to a boardwalk theme, because you could do like carnival themed boardwalk. You could do like beachy seaside boardwalk that's just for like strolling and like ocean views and like sand and ocean, like seaside shrubbery, we'll call it. You could do the food you would find at a boardwalk. So you could do cotton candy, popcorn, hot dogs, candies really of any sort. I mean, there's rides would be a great way to do it. I know I've got a couple stamp sets of some carnival or amusement park rides. You can even just use boardwalk colors as an inspiration. I think a lot of red and whites could be used to make a boardwalk card, but whatever you think. So thank you all so very much for stopping by today. I'm so happy to be doing this Facebook Live for y'all. If you have any questions, feel free to tag me in the comments of this Facebook Live, make a post in the group, whatever works best for you. I'm more than happy to assist. Thank you all once again for stopping by. I can't wait to see what you make for the June challenge, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.